Hey guys, it's Nicole. I'm back with another video. And today's video is going to be about a book I read, I think around last year. I don't think I read this book this year, but I really loved reading it. And I don't know why I haven't brought it up until now, but I guess there's just so many other books to talk about. But before we get started, I just want to say if you have subscribed to my channel recently or in the past, thank you so much. Every single one of you really does mean a lot to me. I see my numbers, I see all of you under my subscribers numbers, and I just love that you're here and want to see my content. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Totally free, and you'll get notified every time I upload new videos. Even though I do that on Tuesdays and Fridays, you never know if that'll change or if I decide to add new content. So do that. And if you enjoy this video, please like, comment, because I want to hear from you all, and share this video with anyone that you think might enjoy it. Even if you think they might not enjoy it, just share it with them, and you never know. We are coming to the end of the year, which is just wild. Like 2025 has just taken forever and somehow simultaneously sped by. And the holidays are coming up, Christmas, New Year's, everything is coming up. I'm still planning to release videos as usual. Nothing's going to change. I just have to adjust my recording schedule. That doesn't affect you guys. But I do intend to make my last video of the year, or at least my last video that I usually make about specific books, to be about basically a rank of every single book I read in 2025. From like my most favorite to my least favorite. So look forward to that. That should be the last Friday of December, which should be the week after Christmas, obviously. And yeah, I am excited to do that. I have read a lot of books this year. I think I'm on book 36 or so. Kind of hard to remember. But I want to make a rank basically of all of the books I read this year, and I don't need to go too deep into it, but I am excited to make that video, so look out for that one. And the series that I upload as usual, judging books by their covers, will continue as usual. And if there's any new content, I will let you guys know. Things will come out. Things are getting a little bit crazy in my life, and there are new things that I am planning on sharing, just not yet, because we're not there yet. But for now, just look out for my book content. That being said, in case I forget to say it, happy holidays to everyone. I don't know what most of my followers celebrate, but we are getting to the end of the year where at least most people are celebrating some form of a holiday, and it is that time of year. So happy holidays to everybody. But let's go ahead and get into the book we're talking about today. I cannot remember for the life of me where I actually first heard of the book and was like, I'm gonna go get this book and read it, because I'd heard the title before, but I didn't know it was a book first. I knew it was a movie. So the book we're talking about today is Fried Green Tomatoes at the Whistle Stop Cafe. It is quite a title. And yes, it was a movie. It is a movie. It was a book first, then they made it into a movie starring Kathy Bates. The author of this book is Fannie Flagg. She also wrote, it says, author of Can't Wait to Get to Heaven. And that's pretty much all that this cover says. This book is not super old, but also not very recent, especially because the movie was from a while ago. Yeah, it was first copyrighted, published in 1987, so the late 80s is when this book was written and published, and it takes place in 1985, and then we kind of do some flashbacks towards, like, backwards towards the 1920s. So there's a lot of time periods and a lot of American history in this book. So it's, honestly, as an American, it's such a nostalgic book to read, even if I wasn't alive during the times that the book takes place in, because it's part of American history. You know, even though I'm not from the area that this book takes place in, it's still part of the history of the country that I grew up in. So it's honestly such even though there's some tragic things that happen in this book, and definitely some parts and context of the book that are true to American history that are not so pleasant, it's still such a reminiscent kind of book that is like, here's a community of America during this era, and here are the characters. So personally, I really, really, really loved this book. There are some strong words, some intense language in this book. It's hard to say how people might take that because, you know, it's like in the context of this book, it's different. You know, it's like the people that are saying the words are people that are allowed to say those words. And so it's a little bit complicated. There are some words in this book that we typically don't use today. But I don't know if it was like necessary to use the language, but at the same time, it's like it was used because it's what they said a lot back then, even though we don't really say it today. And it's just, for me, the reason I loved it is even though there was some tragedy, even though there's some strong language, even though there's some mistreatment of people and groups of people, it was like, here is a fictionalized representation of a typical community in America in the kind of area that this book takes place in. And so it was really good. It's a drama, you know, it's about the lives of the characters in the town that the Whistle Stop Cafe is located in. And that's why it was so enjoyable to me. I love stories about people, even if they're just characters, you know, even if the characters are based off of real people, they're still just characters. Like, it's not 100% accurate to whoever the character might have been based on. I just love the stories, and that's what this book is. It's stories of a million different people, like so many different characters. You get all of their stories in different chapters and different perspectives. So for me, that's why I really, really, really loved reading this book. It's hard to say where I'll put this on the rank at the end of the year, at the video that I do. But we'll see, because I really did like this one. I'm going to go ahead and read the back so we can kind of get a little bit of a synopsis, and then I can kind of explain what I meant by some strong language and other things. So the back of the book says, folksy and fresh, endearing and affecting, fried green tomatoes at the Whistle Stop Cafe is the now classic novel of two women in the 1980s of gray-headed Mrs. Threadgood telling her life story to Evelyn, who is in the sad slump of middle age. The tale she tells is also of two women, the irrepressibly daredevilish tomboy Idgie and her friend Ruth, who back in the 30s ran a little place in Whistle Stop, Alabama, a southern kind of cafe woe-begone, offering good barbecue and good coffee and all kinds of love and laughter, even an occasional murder. And as the past unfolds, the present for Evelyn and for us will never be quite the same again. So yeah, like I said, it's really about the stories of the people, of the characters that are in this book. And it was really good. There are some review quotes back here that I do kind of want to read because even though they're not on the cover, they do give some context to the book. Airplanes and television have removed the Threadgoods from the southern scene. Happily for us, Fanny Flagg has preserved a whole community of them in a richly comic, poignant narrative that records the exuberance of their lives, the sadness of their departure. Idgie Threadgood is a true original. Huckleberry Finn would have tried to marry her. And that review quote is by Harper Lee, author of To Kill a Mockingbird. There are a couple of other very short review quotes underneath, a real novel and a good one from The Busy Brain of a Born Storyteller. That's from the New York Times. It's funny, very good, in fact, just wonderful from the Los Angeles Times. Funny and macabre from the Washington Post. And courageous and wise from Houston Chronicle. So a lot of places, a lot of people had things to say about this book. And I think that those kind of encapsulate how I feel about this book and how I felt reading it, honestly. Honestly, Harper Lee's quote kind of really sums it up very well for me personally. Fanny Flagg has preserved a whole community of them, the Threadgoods in the southern scene. Preserved a community of them in a richly comic, poignant narrative that records the exuberance of their lives and the sadness of their departure. And that's really what this book is. Even though it tells so many different stories of the characters of Whistle Stop, Alabama, and the visitors of the cafe, the story really does circulate around the two women that we flash back to the 20s and 30s, Ruth and Iggy, and they're the ones that run the Whistle Stop Cafe together. Now, do we ever truly know the nature of their relationship? No. But they are very close. They are two women who became best friends, and without giving too much away, they end up basically kind of sharing their lives together. And the context of their relationship is vague. It's left up to interpretation. It's kind of like whatever you want to see their relationship as. But they run the cafe together and kind of create a beautiful life for themselves and the customers that come into the cafe. So I'm going to read the first page of the book and then kind of go into how the book is structured, because it's a little bit different and I like the way that it's structured. The reason I wanted to talk about how the book is structured is because the chapters are like not the same length all the time, because they're not the same kind of context. The very first chapter of this book is kind of there's no other way to describe it other than it's a news clipping from 1929 that starts out giving us our context of Whistle Stop at the time the cafe is opening. So it's kind of structured out like this. It always has this little emblem at the top of every chapter, the Weems Weekly. So it kind of helps you be like, okay, this is the newspaper clipping part. And then when we go into a different chapter, that's like actually a chapter. For example, when we go to present day, like in 1985, because that's when the book takes place, the top says the Rose Terrace Nursing Home. So that way we're like, okay, even before we look down and see the date on the page, we know where we are, because we flash forward back and forth from the 80s to the 20s and 30s a lot. And that's kind of how the book is set up. So the first page of this book is basically the Weems Weekly. So it's the news clipping from 1929. And it's specifically, the date listed here is June 12th, 1929. There's also the location kind of at the top of the page. It also says underneath the emblem, Whistle Stop, Alabama's weekly bulletin. So you're like, okay, I know exactly when I am and where I am. So after the date, it says cafe opens. That's like the title of the news clipping, basically. The Whistle Stop Cafe opened up last week, right next door to me at the post office, and owners Iggy Threadgood and Ruth Jameson said business has been good ever since. Iggy says that for people who know her, not to worry about getting poisoned, she is not cooking. All the cooking is being done by two colored women, Sipsy and Ansel, and the barbecue is being cooked by Big George, who is Ansel's husband. I'm going to stop there because it just kind of goes into the rest of the news clipping, but kind of what the clipping is. It's literally just like the old form of social media. It's like, here's what's going on in the town. And yes, like I said, 1929, they called them colored people back then. And we still use that language today. That's not super intense. That's not what I was referring to. But yeah, we don't usually say that these days. I am going to also read the first page of the next chapter, because that's kind of where our story begins in the Rose Terrace Nursing Home, and how we meet the two characters. Well, really the main character that we kind of get her thoughts and perspective from. So after the emblem at the top that says Rose Terrace Nursing Home, it does say Old Montgomery Highway, Birmingham, Alabama. And then there's the date, like right at the top of the paragraph. See, it's set up like this. I like how structured and organized it is. It's like one of my favorite parts of the organization of this book. The date is December 15th, 1985. Evelyn Couch had come to Rose Terrace with her husband, Ed, who was visiting his mother, Big Mama, a recent but reluctant arrival. Evelyn had just escaped them both and had gone into the visitors' lounge in the back, where she could enjoy her candy bar in peace and quiet. But the moment she sat down, the old woman beside her began to talk. Now, you ask me the year somebody got married, who they married, or what the bride's mother wore, and 9 times out of 10, I can tell you. But for the life of me, I can't, and I say can't because it's spelled CAIN', tell you when it was I got to be so old. It just sort of slipped up on me. The first time I noticed it was June of this year when I was in the hospital for my gallbladder, which they still have, or maybe they threw it out by now. Who knows? That heavyset nurse had just given me another one of those fleet enemas they're so fond of over there when I noticed what they had on my arm. It was a white band that said Mrs. Cleo Threadgood, an 86-year-old woman. Imagine that. And I'm going to stop there because it pretty much goes into the next page. But reading this again, because I haven't read this book in a year, reading the paragraph again kind of brings me back to the conversations between Evelyn and Mrs. Threadgood. It was just such a cup-filling book for me to read. Does that make sense? It's like, I never personally had anyone like in my family in a nursing home, but I have had older family members where you sit down next to them and they start rattling on about something in their past or something very recent from the other day, but they can't really remember what happened last week, but they can remember what happened yesterday, and then they can really remember what happened 30, 40 years ago. And it just kind of makes me think of those interactions that I've personally had. And so reading the interactions between Evelyn and Mrs. Threadgood in the nursing home in the present when the book takes place just fills my cup. It feels like coming home a little bit, if that makes sense. And probably one of the reasons I really enjoyed reading the book. The parts where we flash back to the late 20s and 1930s in Whistle Stop, Alabama, they kind of go back and forth for me because there's a lot of tragedy. I mean, there's tragedy all the time in all decades, all over the world, everywhere. But we kind of know, like, at least me from my American history that I know, so many hard times were put on so many people back then of all races, all groups, all classes. And it's so hard to read that and the other personal struggles that they go through in the story that Mrs. Threadgood is telling of the Whistle Stop Cafe. And it's like watching those movies where it's like you're watching a representation of what it was like to live during a different era, and it kind of makes you feel appreciative of what you get to live and experience in your time that's improved since then. It makes you feel sad and genuinely heartbroken that this was at all any way of life people lived and or how people were treated. The other thing that stuck out most to me, because it wasn't just the sad part, the not so great part, was that there was a sense of community in Whistle Stop, even though there were definitely racial issues and gender disparities and so many other, just social issues. There was a sense of community that I feel is so greatly written in this book and just comes through for me. And I think it kind of makes it feel so much more realistic because it's fictional, it's all fictional, but it's not completely fictional. Like, it's based on what a real small town would have been like in that time, in that place. It's just really what it feels like you're doing is you're reading a book about Evelyn Couch, like that's whose perspective we're really getting in the book. And then we're kind of going into a time machine and getting to take a look back into the 1930s in Whistle Stop, Alabama, which if you're a history nerd like me or you just like stories like me, I love that concept. I love the idea of getting to actually look back and see what it would have been like living in a different time. And that's really what this does. That's what those chapters do as she's telling the story. And what's really beautiful about it is Mrs. Threadgood in the nursing home is simply telling Evelyn these stories because they're coming up. When people get older, they tell stories of their youth, of what they remember. And she's not really doing it for a specific purpose. Like, she's not doing it because Evelyn asked, like, hey, where are you from? And tell me everything about everything you know from the town you grew up in. But yet, Evelyn gets so much from what Mrs. Threadgood tells her. And there's parts in the book where Evelyn, because it kind of mentions on the back that she's going through a midlife crisis, where there's parts in the book where she finally stands up for herself because she's not ever been that kind of person. And it's because of the stories that Mrs. Threadgood told her and of the women that ran the Whistle Stop Cafe. And she got so much from that, even though she wasn't asking for it. She was just trying to escape her husband and mother-in-law so she could eat a candy bar or some other kind of snack in peace without them harassing her. And it's honestly, it's so hard because I have so many good things to say about this book, but obviously, like I said, there is some strong language and possibly some things that are like slightly offensive. But at the same time, for me, what I loved about reading this book is that it just so fully encapsulates so many different human experiences. Middle-aged women in the 1980s, 80-year-old women in the 1980s, what it was like for Black people in the 1930s from a white person's perspective, because Fanny Flagg was a white woman and she was writing it from Idgie and Ruth's perspective. So they were seeing it and writing it in their perspective. So it's good to know that and acknowledge that, because white people cannot fully encapsulate what it was like to be a different race in a different time, but they can kind of give a perspective of what it was like to watch people be treated a certain way. And to me, it was encapsulated so well that it does create that sense of empathy for every single person in this book and the hardships they had to go through because of attributes of themselves that they couldn't control. And at the same time, the day-to-day experiences that make life worth living. And so it's a beautiful drama is what this is. It is a beautiful representation of life, a snippet of a community and what American life was like at a certain point in a certain place. And that's why this book is really good. I have not seen the movie. And if you're watching this video and you have seen the movie, I want to know your thoughts in the comments, what you think of the movie, because I've never seen it and I do want to see it because I do love Kathy Bates and she plays Evelyn Couch, so I would love to see that. But also, if you've seen the movie and never read the book, I want to know your thoughts and if you might consider reading the book, because I don't know what the movie's like, but the book is really good. So if you like the movie, you'll probably like the book. I'm hoping I'll like the movie, so if I end up watching it, I will let you guys know in just a quick video like, hey, I watched it and I actually did enjoy it, or maybe it was like, oh, it was terrible, it didn't match the book at all. But I will let you guys know if and when I get to that, because so many movies to watch. It's like I have a huge to-be-read pile of books and I have a long list of movies to watch too, so it's just going to take time to get through all of them, but that's okay. But that's really all I had to say about that book, and I wanted to make this video. And I'm really glad I finally got to it, and I hope that you guys go read it if it sounds interesting. I don't think I can say anything else that would describe it better. So if you liked what I had to say about it, I think you'll enjoy the book. So thank you guys all so much for watching. Thank you for being in my channel and subscribing if you subscribe. And even if you don't, thank you for just interacting with my channel. It's such an amazing thing for me to get to come on here and just do this. I just love doing it for fun. So thank you guys all so much for being here, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful holiday season and end of the year, and I look forward to all the new kinds of content I'm going to be making in the new year and all the new things I will be updating you guys on. But that's really it, and I thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.